Facebook land. This is Brother Michael Champion and my special guest Shannon. We're recording here on location in Weaver, Alabama. And boy, if we got a program for you tonight, it's going to be a really good thing. Shannon's going to be sharing with us her testimony, what God's brought her through with addiction. I might get a chance to share some of the things he's shared with me and brought me through. But I think addiction is something that you really don't truly know about it unless you've been there, whether it be alcohol addiction or drug addiction or many other forms of addiction that's out there. And what I think is pretty interesting, a lot of people don't know the biblical ramifications of this. In Revelation chapter 9, verse 21, that whole chapter is talking about the bottomless pit being opened up and these great demonic horde of creatures coming out to come after mankind. And it says in that last verse of the chapter, verse 21, it says that even though that happens, that people will not repent from their sorceries, their fornication, and so forth. And I find that very interesting because the Greek word that's used there for sorcery is pharmakeia, and it's where we get the word basically drug, as like a drugstore or just the use of drugs in general. And Revelation 18:23, it talks about the false prophet and how he will actually use some form of a narcotic or a drug, and by the use of this drug, the whole world is going to be deceived. So the Bible specifically says that in the last days, and even going into the tribulation, there's going to be a time that drug use is going to be very prevalent in the world. And the fact that it's actually going to be endorsed by the end time leaders of the false prophet and the Antichrist, I find very interesting. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this broadcast. The actual word pharmakeia in Greek, it actually means potions of magic, often involving a drug. And I think that we're really beginning to see this on the rise. There's so much going on right now. A lot of people don't know this, but I think it was like LSD was actually was set out by the government back in the day. And there's so much going on in this world. And I wanted to just have Shannon on today. She has a beautiful, beautiful testimony how God's been working in her life. And to be honest with you, this is really, if you've ever heard a true life story of the prodigal son or prodigal daughter, then this is what we have here. And I want to be the first one to welcome you, Shannon, to the show. It's good to have you. This is my sister from another mister, and we're going to have a good time with the Lord and bring this out. Now, I got a few foundational scriptures that I want to start with because it's going to tie into the very end. Ephesians 1:4 talks about how God had predestined us to the adoption of his family from before the foundation of the world. And in Jeremiah 29:11, depending on your translation, it's going to say that God says, I know the thoughts or the plans I have for you, plans to bring you to an expected end. It's to set us on a special course to bring us to the fulfillment of what God has for us. And it's very interesting. Even our darkest moment, God is in control and he's guiding and he's using us. I think it's in Romans where it says that all things work to the good for those who love the Lord and called according to his purpose. But right now, I want to give Shannon a little bit of a chance to talk about it. Every story has got a starting point, and I know for Shannon, like myself, we started out in a Christian home, and things that's where the story started. So Shannon, why don't you share a little bit about your upbringing?
Well, I got saved at 12 years old on the curb in front of my house in Poplar Springs subdivision in Ringo, Georgia. I was 12 years old, like I said, and this little girl across the street, her name was Debbie Bible, and she led me to the Lord right there on the curb. I used to go, they used to have a van that came through our subdivision that would pick up the kids on a Wednesday, and take us to Act Teens and stuff like that. So I started off going there with her, and like I said, we got off that van one night and sit on the curb in front of our house. She asked me, did I want to meet a man named Jesus?
That's cool.
So I did. And I remember my mom and my brother getting saved, and several years later, lots of prayer, my dad getting saved. I was talking to my dad this weekend, and I had a good home, Michael. I mean, I never saw my mom and dad smoke or drink or anything like that, I was a cheerleader. I was popular in school. If you would have ever told me that I would have ended up being a drug addict for 27 years and did 3.5 years in prison, I'd have told you was crazy.
Right. I can definitely relate to that. People, I was down in Florida for about interesting enough, about 25 to 27 years. And when I come home and I tell people that I was on crack for that length of time, for part of that time in 15 years, people look at me and said, because I didn't fit what the traditional profile is of someone that falls into addiction. Yeah. But I think the lesson to learn there is don't think you're so big in your britches
Yeah.
that the devil can't snare you and pull you away.
Oh, he don't discriminate.
No, he doesn't, and he doesn't, and as we'll see here after a while, the drugs they're ruthless. They want to take you down one way or another. But I'm kind of curious. What was it? And tell people in your own words, what was it that kind of began to pull you away from your spiritual upbringing? Because I know for me, I was looking for something that I couldn't find in church, and I thought I could find that in drugs. Can you share a little bit about you?
I sure will. I seen something the other day, I was telling you about earlier, that a sign that said we're all addicted to something that takes the pain away. You know?
Yeah.
And I love that because, usually that's how addiction starts.
Right.
Trying to fill that void, that hole that only God can fill.
Right.
But with me, like I said, I got saved at 12, and I remember going on mission trips with my youth group and doing the clown and puppet ministry for the kids at Mount Pisgah Baptist Church in Ringo, Georgia. And I went on mission trips with my youth group, and I loved it. I mean, that was the first time that I felt real love and acceptance is at my church and around those people. Lived that way, never drank or smoked a joint or anything until my senior trip, in high school. And how Satan subtly tries to lure you away. It wasn't nothing that just happened bam overnight. I got a job at a leasing agent at an apartment complex there in Chattanooga, and I was 20 years old. And the girls that worked there with me, they were a little bit about 3 or 4 years older than me. They would get me in the bars with them, so we'd start going to the bars after work. And then that was back in the 90s when cocaine was a social thing.
Yeah.
And so, we would just do it on Wednesday nights and Saturday nights when we went out drinking. But, we still maintained. We still went to the work the next day. And it was a way to fit in, being the youngest and wanting to be that, I guess, that popular person again, I reckon. And wanting to fit in with the crowd. And the devil did tell you that, 5 years later, you'd be homeless, walking the streets hungry and addicted.
Yeah, the devil always leaves out the rest of the story, doesn't he? Paul Harvey said many years ago, that's the rest of the story.
Now
but
you've heard the rest of the story.
But the devil doesn't tell you everything. He only shows you the glamorous side of that. How much for me? I know for me, I came from a background where I didn't really feel that loved, and I was under pressure at home. And I always wanted to be in a relationship with a girl, and I didn't have the confidence or anything to. And so when I got older, it's very interesting down in Florida. What happened with me was I followed my mom down there, and then she moved back to Alabama, and I was down there, and I just had paid the car off. I just had paid the house off, and I had like all this money all of a sudden. And I thought, I think I would go cruising the streets and see what kind of women are out there, which was a dumb thing in hindsight. Because there's only one kind of woman you're gonna find walking the street at 2:00 in the morning in the city, and that pulled me in. And it was really the women at first. That's what got me. I mean, I wanted to have lots of women around, lots of girls. And then one time, what happened? One of the girls.
And all you had to do was have a big sack, and you'd have all them girls.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. And and that's how I started on crack cocaine. Yeah. The devil will never tempt you with the downside of it. He's always going to come to you the glamorous side, what you're looking for, what you feel that you're needing. And it took me several years, even though I grew up in a church. I got saved about in 1986, but it didn't really catch on right away. I still was going around, and I felt empty inside. I was searching for something to have. Like you, I went to the summer camps and so forth, but there was still something that I felt that I needed, and that turned out to be Jesus Christ. And I found out that when I surrendered that to Him, my whole life began to change and metamorphose into something great and beautiful in a relationship with Christ. But we're going to talk more about that later. I said, it's.
Well, my phone's telling me right now.
Go for it.
When I was 21, like I said, I stopped going to church, hanging out with the wrong friends, going out to bars, and the drugs that came with those friends and environment. And at 21, my friends taught me into getting in a bikini contest, and I won Miss Budweiser. And so, at 21 years old, I remember that's where I know that Satan lavished me with lots of money and endless supply of drugs to make sure he had a good grip on me. Because, like I said, it was all fun and games until it ain't fun no more. Right. The consequences start coming. But he doesn't tell you all that. He doesn't tell you you know, I had a limo driver, and I had like I said, an ounce of cocaine at all times, and just living what I thought was the dream.
Exactly.
You know, and it all ends the same, you know, with misery and heartache.
It does.
Scars that will never go away.
And I think that the devil, what he does, he entices us with these fancy things, the girls, the men, the cars, the wealth. He does that because he's going to lace it with something that's going to catch you. It's going to be a snare. And I did this one time, and maybe somebody can relate to this. I'm going to share this. I just feel that I need to say this right now. I actually, because I was so euphoric when I took cocaine, I actually remember running through my house saying, "Thank God for cocaine," because I was getting that synthetic need that I wanted. But let me tell you something. I may have started saying "Thank God for it," but by the time it was over and I started going to jail a few times, I'm like, maybe this is not a gift from God.
No.
But I was so deceived by that. You know, that the devil is a liar. He'll lie. I think sometimes people think that the devil comes around with horns and a pitchfork and a ponytail, saying stuff to you and just saying blatant lies. But that's not how the devil works. You know, Paul told the church of Corinth that through the subtlety of his craft, he can pull you away, just like he subtly confused Eve and brought her into this. And of course, when she fell, her husband ate of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and he fell too, and brought sin into the entire world. And it's been said by a much wiser man than myself that sin will take you further than you want to go, cost you more than you wanted to pay, and keep you there longer than you wanted to stay. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's a wonder that I didn't end up in bigger trouble than I did. I was actually shot at from about 20 feet, and I didn't get hit. So I don't know if it was a warning shot. I don't know if it was someone trying to actually come after me, but I left real quick. I didn't want to be around that area. But unfortunately, at that time, I made sure I had my dope before I got out of the way too. The thing is, it comes back to that lying spirit. You know, the devil says, or the Bible tells us that Satan was a liar. Excuse me, he was a liar from the very beginning because there's no truth in him. John talks about that, and I think that you know, when you're young, you know, at which we were at the time we got started this, then we're not oftentimes tuned in to how sly the devil can actually be. And I think that the Bible refers to the devil as a serpent, and I think that's a good assessment because the way he can look at you and talk you down for anything. And I one time said that the devil was killing me softly with kisses. And that's exactly what he does.
Reminds me of the snake on the Jungle Book.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking about that. Yeah, he was I saw that. Yeah, that was a good one. But yeah, exactly. That's how he does. And you have to put him underfoot. You have to because let me tell you something. If you think that playing in sin and rebellion from God, which by the way, rebellion is the same thing as witchcraft, according to the book of Samuel, then if you think, okay, let me put it like this: Eve's problem was not necessarily the temptation. Eve was talking to the serpent, and she thought she was going to get one over on the devil, and it just didn't happen. And I know from personal experience, I tried to rationalize with the devil, and you can't do that. You can't rationalize with someone who's bent on your destruction and taking you away. I mean, you know, drugs, and I've got several friends that are in that have come out of addiction. I'm going to tell you that it not only takes your money, it no longer takes your personal freedom or your peace of mind. It'll take your family from you. It'll take your friends from you. It will take your home if you let it. It will take your car. It will take everything. And even though I own my own house, I didn't lose it. There was a rumor going on for a while that I had stopped paying my taxes, and that's how I lost my house. The truth of the matter is, I sold my house, and I had a nice little chunk of cash. But then I went and I moved in with a crack whore. And her boyfriend and another guy. So we're all in there. We're all doing cocaine, and that's what got me. And I have it's cost me a lot. And like I said, it took me many years to actually come back to Christ where He wanted me. I remember one time saying that I got so distraught and I was going to destroy my life so bad it's going to take nothing less than the hand of God to bring it back.
I was telling a friend of mine the other day. I said, an acquaintance. Let me say this: that you know, but what we were talking about earlier, you know, that's what's going on in our world today, in politics especially, in Hollywood. And I told him, I said, you know, Satan hates you. He hates you. I mean, the only reason he's going to give you anything is to get back at God.
Yeah.
because we were made in the image of God. And
That's right.
God loves us so much. And so, you know, the devil, he might make it look good. But like I said, you know, God knows the end from the beginning.
He does.
He knows the end from the beginning. And Satan knows that his time's almost up.
Yeah.
And he's kicking it into overdrive.
You better believe
he's
that's
kicking
right.
it into overdrive. And, you know, I just don't know how people do it without God.
I know you
really
can't do
don't.
it. You can't do it. You know, I'm getting ready to celebrate 5 years clean and sober, and I know you got your big 2-year mark,
Yeah,
and I
coming
love
up.
that. It's the 5 and the 2. It's how Jesus fed the masses, and it's going to be, and that I think that's a joyful time because you know, you and I as friends, we came together this time, and I believe that the 5 and 2. I don't believe in coincidences. I used to, but I don't.
No.
God is a master planner. He puts things together. And I can't wait to see more things that he's going to do in my life, and I can't wait to see how he works in your life. Because you know, you got your testimony. I mean, you travel around the churches now at Celebrate Recovery, and you share what the Lord has done for you.
Yes, I'm going to keep sharing.
That's it. You know, the Bible says that we overcome the enemy by what?
The blood of the Lamb and the word of our
testimony. That's right. And you got an
That's right.
amazing testimony. Absolutely.